Welcome back, everybody. Sorry I'm not on camera quite yet. I'm just grabbing a few things to get set up for tonight's show. Starting a little later than I wanted to. I needed a little bit of rest, apparently. I try to tell myself that I don't need sleep, that we can sleep when we're dead. But let's just say I fell asleep in the room with Kit, and, well, because of that, I was not able to wake up and get out here and get everything set up. But that's okay. We're back. We'll be working, getting everything set up here. We're going to be resawing this wood for the other project. We're looking pretty good on some of the squareness. I am going to go over a few features on your bandsaw that you should look into. I'll bring you over here closer in just a second. But for now, I want to be able to kind of focus on one of them while I do this. Of course, I can grab too big, too small.
Set the alarm for when?
And Siri is being a pain to me. Let me just put it that way. Let me loosen this up. I need to get a magnet and set it over here so that way I have all my Allen wrenches set up on my tool. That'll make it a lot easier. But yeah, tonight's show, we're going to be kind of just touching base on a few little things. We have the bandsaw, I think, finally, maybe, possibly dialed in. We are trying to make some slight adjustments. I can't quite... kind of unfortunate. I can't quite reach my hand in there to make one adjustment on the bottom. I'm going to see if I can do it without it. It does need to be adjusted, but basically what it is the thrust bearing for the back bottom blade. The thrust bearing is what kind of pushes the tension out on it. What's up, Dan? How you doing? I think I have fixed the bandsaw. I'm just doing some a little adjustments. There is a keg, though it's my belly. Not a good keg today. I got 4 more days, and then I can actually have a drink doing the thing with the father-in-law. So those are my 3 favorite ways of fixing things. What we got going on, though, here tonight is we did get a new blade. The Fox BC blade was not that great. It had stretched. Got a new one, got the timber, which was the one that I had used before I hit a screw. So now we are go ahead and put that back on. We've gotten everything aligned, and if you can see here, we actually got a better alignment up top. Probably gonna just try to see if I can kick it back a little bit more. Oh, thank you, I appreciate that, Eel. How you doing? Yes, Steel Panther. Love Steel Panther. Seen them a couple times live. But we are trying to just get some of these last things dialed in. And hopefully not going to damage anything tonight. Would be kind of a sad thing. So I'm going to bring you around to the other side so you guys can kind of see. So what I am working on currently, in fact, let me just flip the camera around for you all. Ooh, man, I gotta clean my lens. When you're setting up your bandsaw, one of the things you need to make sure you're doing correctly on it. Hey, can't complain about free ears, right? Your interview, has that came up yet there, Dan? So if you look, while we wait for that answer, you can see this bearing wants to spin right here in the back. Now, I do have the upgraded bearing set on here, but we want to make it so that these bearings don't spin until there's pressure on it. I've got the back set up well, but this guy right here is kind of been giving me a little bit of difficulty. I don't know if I need to get new bearings. They are older. That one's a little dirty. I probably should clean it up a little bit. But what we can do is just ever so slightly adjust it. Now, people will tell you do the old dollar bill folded in half. Isn't there a Limp Bizkit song about a dollar bill, $3 bill, y'all? But as long as you got a little bit of light there, it's fine. We just don't want it rubbing and making a bunch of sound. We've got the blade tracking up top better. Please tell me that's not a raindrop. We do have some weather here, so if all of a sudden you see me scramble to go and shove this back inside, it's because it's cast iron. I don't want a bunch of water getting on it. There's a little bit here and there. I think what I'm finding on the table right now has been some little metal shavings. I don't know if that was from when I accidentally messed it up. Ah, I got it. Artemis. How'd that go? I know we got it into space, but didn't get to watch it live. I was dealing with the two kids. But now that we got this set up, and this guy does need to be cleaned really well. I'll have to come back and clean that later. And the bearing is a little loose on it. So we'll probably have to do some adjustments down the road on it. I believe if I tighten it down, it'll spin in circles, but it isn't gonna really do what we want it to do. But basically when you set this up, like I've said in the past, if you watch the Alex Snodgrass method on how to do this, I would say that is probably the best way of doing this. That's all I'm following along. I do. So I have a giant shop vac right there in the screen. And I am contemplating, I have a smaller, that's the big dust collector. I have a smaller shop vac that I'm actually contemplating setting up a little bit of dust collection off the side of it, just to get the dust that kind of comes up off the wood. Let me drop you guys down here, though, to show you what I've been kind of working with that's been difficult lately. So under here, and let me get my lighting all set up a little better. That right there are the guides for the bottom. Now, we're pretty good on side to side. Back side, as I move it over here, oops. Let me move it there. Okay, so if you see that top bearing, it's pretty good. What it should be is when you get a little bit of pressure on the blade, it should touch. It's just not quite touching. I got to put a lot of pressure on it, and it still doesn't want to spin. The problem is that I'm running into... I haven't yet. I have... Well, let me take that back. What I do with my sawdust typically is I turn it into nesting material for my chickens. And that seems to work pretty well. There we go. Perfect. There. That should be good. We're not rubbing on it, but then when we push on it, all right, that's touching it. That's off. When this spins, it shouldn't, but when it comes back, it should just touch it. So let me give it one little bit of a spin. Now we're good. Yeah, I like to use my sawdust that I collect and dump it in the chicken boxes for their nesting material. It's a nice fluffy material for those eggs. Keeps them nice and you know, dry material to soak up all their, you know, unspeakables when they're in the chicken coop. And the other thing I see people do is use it for making fire starters. Compress it down, put some sap in it, things like that. Great for that. So there we have it. I'm going to do the smart thing and keep this guy out and this guy out, and there's one more, this guy out. I'm going to keep them with the bandsaw, and I'm going to put them in the secret hidey hole that I did not know existed on this thing. We have a back door, pun intended, on it to be able to store our blades and other essentials. Yes, I actually do. I'll do that too. There's a different way of doing that. Now, in fact, I will go over with you guys kind of my method of filling joint lines, things like that. I'm sure there's some 420 guys out there coming up that will tell you how they use saliva to fill up their joint lines. But that's a different type of joint. For me, what I typically do is, let me grab a piece of wood. I talk with my hands, I need a piece of wood in it. And not my, well, I digress. So right here, let's say, yeah. As you can see here, you can see that little bit of a line. It's going to be a little bit off. But let's say this was where you join two pieces of wood together, a 45, a joint, whatever. Instead of just making a mix-up of wood filler for it out of the dust you collect, because there's so many different dusts that get in that bag, what I like to do is you actually run a little bead of glue down inside of there, or just like with your finger along it, and then you take a sanding pad or your rotary sander, I should say random orbit, that's the correct terminology, and you take it off the shop vac and then you sand it once you put the glue in there. And what that does is it'll actually take off those little pieces of dust from it, and it'll fill in to the glue that you did and create a matching color scheme for your wood. How's it going, TK421? Sorry, I just saw numbers and I had to go with it. 79614-382. How are you doing? We are, you know, that's the way I like to fill it. You can make it into wood putties and fillers, especially if you're constantly working with the same type of wood, walnut, maple, things like that. I prefer to do the sanding method. I think I get a cleaner, more natural fill on it. You just always want to make sure you can scrape off that excess. Glue is kind of the you know, it's necessary, but it's kind of your bane of your existence once you're trying to do finishing work. Probably could. It would probably work as a good filler. The other nice thing with it is that you can also use, I've seen guys use it for epoxies to kind of make like a wood grain epoxy type thing, or a wood filler epoxy. Sawdust is great. You can use it for a lot of different things. Like I said, I think the most common things I see people use their wood dust and sawdust for, or their wood chips for, are, you know, replacing it into things. There's certain woods that work really good to make compost piles on, things like that. If you need places where grass and stuff isn't going to grow, you'd put it in those areas. I bet it couldn't. Yeah, so that's my take on it. But I think the biggest thing that I see people do is use it for fire starters, right? Dan, I'm sure you've probably seen some of these things before where you can kind of make your own little fire starter kits with using like petroleum jelly. I think it's like cotton or lint type things. You mix it all together. You take your self-starting match, or not self-starting match, your strike anywhere match, whatever that case may be. You put it on there, wrap it all together. Now you got like a kind of fire starter kit. You could do the same thing with sawdust. And depending on the sawdust you use, I mean, there are some great woods out there that already kind of have some sap built into them, or really dry, can really do a good job on it. And I think those are kind of like really cool things to use with it. But maybe one day I'll try something like that. Maybe I'll do a video on how to use your leftover wood and sawdust. So let me come over here. We're going to go ahead and grab this old piece of wood that we were working on last night. In fact, before we do that, I am going to grab a scrap piece of wood. Because I have so many scraps up here. And what we are going to do is clear our table off, and we are going to test cut to see if we are in good alignment. We're going to check our table this time. I'm going to show you guys the Alex Snodgrass method of checking if your table is square and how to adjust it. It's a very simple method. You just use a scrap piece of 2x4 or any wood that you have available, and it'll tell you if the whole length of your table is square to your blade, and it's a really good method of doing that. There you go. I bet you if you used leftover wood shavings, it would work pretty well too. So let's just hook up our magnetic attacher there. Put that on. So first thing we're going to do is check square. That was the first thing I wanted to do. So this is the Alex Snodgrass method of checking for your fences square. Obviously, it'd be better with a longer piece of wood. That way you get it across the whole table. But this will work for our purposes for tonight. Let me just get this plug set up. We're going to knock the fence out of the way, and what we're going to do is turn on our shop vac and then our tool. And all you're going to do plugged in the wrong one. There we go. That wasn't a great sound. I don't know if you guys heard that on the mic. Please tell me it didn't mess up that blade again. For some reason, this guy right here, this clamp that holds the door shut, likes to get in the way. Still feels relatively sharp. Let's just turn this on, see what we got. We're gonna leave the top one open just so we don't have to worry about it. But all you're gonna do is to bring your board in, make your cut, flip it around, and if you can get your blade so that way I can kind of show you what I did. See, I made this nice little line cut here. Yeah, that was almost an expensive noise. That blade right on the edge of it. But basically what you do is you make your cut, right? And you can see I made my cut here. I kind of started twisting the board. But what you do is you go to the back side, you line it up, and you just put it right where your blade is. And if it fits in there, you know you're square across the tabletop, and you're good to go. So now what we're going to do is bring this fence board down, probably to about there. This is the whole area I need to work on next. There's just some things in here that are a little bit tight, tight like a tiger. And we're going to take a look down here, make sure that that's vertical. I don't know why it's freaking rubbing. Apparently this guy just wants to get in the way of the... When I swung it out, it hit the edge of the blade. Not actually the blade itself, but the... There we go. Now we're good. Must have just rubbed off enough. All we're going to do is see if we can cut a nice thin sheet off of this. And since I made that cut in there, you can see that it, yeah, there is no pleasing me unless it's perfect. But as you can see, we got a nice thin cut, almost the same thickness. This I can work with. We're going to turn the machine off, and what we're going to do is grab that other piece of wood. We're going to go ahead and set it up to cut it down the middle, and we're going to go from there. We're going to get it all set up, and we're going to make that rip cut or that length cut, so that way we actually have our halved piece of wood that we're going to be able to work with later. So here is that wood I was talking about that we're working with. This is the Canary wood. We want about 17 inches, 16, 17 inches for the length of it. Luckily, since I have that piece we did the other night, I can just lay that up there, get it squared up on the end, draw my line, make my cut, and we can move on, and we can rip this down to size, or we can go from there. So yeah, I have been following along for the Alex Snodgrass method for basically using or utilizing the bandsaw setup. He has like a 6-step technique that you can get done in about 15 minutes to get your bandsaw blade really well set up, pretty much in line and in tuned, as long as you have a good blade, and at least a decent blade, and it's not messed up because you left the tension on it and it was a cheap blade in the first place. And then we can go from there. All right, of course my table is covered with stuff, so can we use this guy? Yes, we can. We're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna eyeball this one, because like I said, we were leaving ourselves purposely with extra. And there is our nice little 17-inch piece there. Is, you know, I haven't done enough research on it. It is a hard lumber, an exotic hard lumber. This is kind of what it looks like. I have really crappy lighting right now, so you can't really see the colors on it. But there we go. Here, let me move you guys over here so you can see it. It's kind of got a yellow and orangey tint to it, but some nice striping through it. Let me do this side. There you go. Kind of a cool wood to work with. It's a harder wood. Don't know where it comes from. Haven't done enough research on that one yet. But we're going to come back over here and set up as I switch it back and forth. Exactly. That's when you would need well, you need the joiner to make it flat and the planer to make it the right thickness. But yeah, it would clean it all up nicely. We're going to bring this in and we're going to kind of eyeball it for halfway. And that's a little bit too much. And that right there is pretty good. So we'll lock it down. Oops. So this is what I was talking about, having that jointed edge to run flat on your table. When you go and buy lumber, even when they claim it's S4S or maybe S2S, S3S, the place I get my hardwoods from, it's S3S, meaning it's surface 3 sides. It's supposed to be flat on sides. So if you look here, you can see very smooth, very smooth. This is a little rougher because S3S, surface 3 sides, S4S, surface 4 size, not double SS. But if you look at this side here, you can see it's really rough. It's even kind of angled. See how it's got this big kind of up part there? Yeah, I talk in acronyms. You should remember acronyms. That's where squaring it up with like your joiner, having a true 90-degree angle, kind of more like that one is going to help when you set this up. Because now that it's on there, I can see that with that angle is offset, I'm a little bit out. So we're just gonna ever so slightly kind of move it over, lock it down, give it a twist so that way it doesn't move. And that is gonna be our remilling cut. This is what's gonna get it down to thickness, a rough thickness. Yes, yes. Unfortunately, I'm more familiar with being called Pogue and Remph, which I will gladly accept because I was that, and I was a reservist of both of those. I digress. But now that we have that set up, what this will do is rough cut us to our desired thickness. In fact, we're going to go ever so slightly, just a tad over. And Siri, I swear, if you listen when I don't ask for you. Hey, there you go. One. There's a good one for you. For you, Dan. Find out if Siri just likes to listen in and pop in. because she's just listening all the time to everything you say. Because I swear, the last week or two, I'll start talking and it'll just blurt off something to me. So yeah, this is our rough width, which is going to be about a 1/2 inch, maybe probably right at a 1/2 inch, maybe just under. And then we would take it over to a joiner to make that one edge perfectly flat, flip it on its side, put that flattened part against the fence, and then flatten the other side so we'd have a true 90-degree jointed side. And then from there, we can use that on the table saw to make sure we have a parallel cut. We can put it through the thickness planer so that way it gets properly referenced to thickness. It's going to be slightly under a 1/2 inch, probably around 3/8 when it's completely done, which is more than enough for the boxes that we're going to be making. So now what we're going to do is actually turn on the dust extractor because I forgot to turn that on the last time. And we're going to make this cut and get it down to where we need. And as I said, I do need to... Oh, I just missed a bunch. Hold on, let me come back. I agree. I think everything listens to you all the time. So here we go. There's a few waves in it just because it isn't a perfect flat piece of wood. But as you can see here, two roughly same thickness boards. It is rough cut on this side. We run that through the planer. After we join up one side, we're going to have our two nice boards. We're going to have a nice bookmarking effect on it on the corners, which will be really cool. This will turn into the main box. The leftover pieces, right, exactly. They can just do everything. So that's what we're going to do. We got this guy pretty well dialed in. The only thing I do need to make probably a slight adjustment on, and I haven't done yet, is a full squaring of my fence to the blade. I don't want to say it's not as important because it is, because if your blade is off to the side, you know, you're running it this way, it's going to start off thicker and then get narrower as it gets down to here. It's pretty well aligned. I could just see a little bit of unevenness. Now, whether that was the board because it's not perfectly flat, whatever, I just kind of angled it a little bit on the back end. But the nice thing is we have a nice straight cut. We didn't have all that bandsaw deflection and drift going back and forth. A lot of that has to do with three things. One, we have adjusted up top the blade up here, and let me get you guys in on that. If you can see where that shiny light is, that is right here, roughly the center of the blade. And what you want is the gullet, which is the bottom part of this, of the tooth, where it's the lowest point in that kind of opening, to be about roughly center, or a center, close to center of the wheel as you can possibly get. That's going to stop that blade from twisting and moving a bunch. Next is going to be, as I zoom out horribly, our correct proper tension. We actually have set the tension correctly. We've got that now set up. Lastly, our guide bearings and our thrust bearings, because the idea here is that when you put pressure on it, it's going to hit that back bearing to keep it staying straight and forward and not being able to fishtail on the backside. And then our side guide bearings, so that if it does want to twist, it's only going to kind of drift maybe about, you know, a 16th, 32nd of an inch. It's just not going to wave around and get off on its own. Like most of the time we do at night, right? Just kidding. If you're married, you are not kidding. That is how that works when it comes to the bandsaw. Since doing that, it's back into action. I will again say, if you are doing woodworking, you're into bandsaws, Alex Snodgrass is the big person there. There's the dogs in the background. And then also, get a decent blade. You don't need to go spend $150, $200 on the most high expensive blade with the carbide teeth. Once you get everything dialed in and you're really serious into it, then you can spend that money. Those blades are going to last you years. But when you're getting new to it, like I've done bandsaw work for a little bit. I haven't done a bunch. Big, ugly. We'll leave the other two out for YouTube. I guess we'll do the actual one, big, ugly, fat fellow. But that is where it really works out well. It's going to save you a lot of time on your planers, your joiners. It's going to save you more material. It's going to help you out in a lot of different ways. Plus, what we are going to get into a little bit later. Nope, that's just the duck. Sorry, I was looking, my Ring camera popped up. We have possum problems. Possums have been raiding our duck's eggs. I love my duck's egg. They're great in the morning for breakfast. They're great for baking. And the possums have been eating them all at night. So I am on a little bit of a, well, I don't know what to call it, headhunt? We'll call it a headhunt. Trying to get the possums. I've put traps out. They have figured out the traps. They do not go to the traps. So now I am trying to take care of business the old-fashioned way. As I was saying, though, before, the big thing is with your bandsaw, the other cool thing you can do is set it up to do scroll work. And what I'd like to do in the near future is actually doing what we call compound cuts, which is where you make 2 or 3 cuts into a piece of the same wood, and that gives you a three-dimensional object. I don't have, well, it's somewhere here. It's just buried in all the stuff I have. I made a compound cut duck, and then also they call it the boxes, bandsaw boxes. That's what I'm using, eggs. The problem is the trap, what I'm pretty sure happened, because I went out there one day, it had deployed or activated, however you want to call it, and there was nothing in it, and the eggs were, well, one egg was eaten and one egg was still in there. I think what happened was there was some wood chips, rocks in the way. When it went down the latch, it stuck the latch. It didn't actually lock. It was able to push its way out. It's a simple box trap. I have reset it with the eggs in there. I try to go out every day to go ahead and collect the eggs, so that way the only food option they would have is either the duck's feed or the eggs, since they love the eggs so much. And unfortunately, they never hit it. So since I am in city limits and can't use the, we'll call it, means that I would prefer to use, we are going with a 22 air rifle that does about 1,200 feet per second. It is quieter because it does have one of the brakes on it in the gas chamber. That would be a great way of taking them out to a gas chamber. But anyways, we're using that. Unfortunately, night shooting is not exactly fun when you have no iron sights. It basically has a scope on it. Does not have an iron sight backup. That is correct. Tannerite does solve all. I don't have to be close, or I don't have to be accurate. It's got to be close. That's the right term. But if I can get close enough, point of aim works pretty well. Or if I have a flashlight, then I can bring that scope up and in. They tend to run away from that. But I did find out that the UV light tends to kind of blind them for a second, so they don't run as fast. I think I'm up to about 7 possums taken care of over the last year between traps and 22 air rifle. I had to get myself another little handgun 22 air rifle. I had one that was about 1,100 feet per second. That thing was actually perfect for that kind of situation with the iron sights close in. Unfortunately, that old one finally gave up after 7 years and is now in the garbage heap. So that is what I'm looking at. So when I stop and pause, I'm looking up because my little Ring camera's popping up with an image. And right now it's just my ducks feeding, because if you didn't know this, ducks are quite nocturnal. They love to feed and graze at night and make a lot of noise. Well, luckily I have neighbors that appreciate it and actually like it and enjoy it and use it as their white sound, as I've been told. Or maybe it's because I once a month give them 24 eggs and they're happy about it. So let's go ahead. Since we did that, we're going to move over to the work table, or I should say the new to me tables. Oh, it's definitely the eggs. And it's not my good looks, I'll tell you that much. So on this table, we have the Cutech joiner that we had talked about the other night. So this is what I'm working on to, we'll say, get shot for a video with a collaboration with them. There are some features I want to go over with you guys before the end of the show. And for now, currently what I want to go over is another collaboration that I was asked to do. I actually was, this one I didn't actually do on my own. Let's see if I can get a little better lighting. There we go. I can't go into too many details about it just because it is still in the works, but basically I was reached out to by FlexMounts right here. Indoor storage options for your garage. They have lots of different products. I went and took a look at their website before deciding to do the collaboration. They actually reached out to me and found out that I was willing to do it, so they worked with me on it. And basically, they do like the hanging garage mounts, regular metal mounts for shelving, things like that. But one of their products that they have is a folding, downward folding shelving unit, and it comes in a pack of 2. Supposed to hold up to 400 pounds, so maybe I've hit the gym enough to be able to do a push-up, maybe not. Oh, that's why it's so bad over there. My daughter put on the light, and you can't see me. Let me just turn those off. And since they reached out and said that, we talked back and forth for a little bit, and we decided to do a collaboration. So I got a set of their forward or downward folding storage shelves, which is going to be a little interesting because I built all my shelves recently, so I don't have much shelving space. I have a few places I can put it. I also have some ideas on how to use it in other ways besides using it as a shelf, or I should say a storage shelf. But we're going to be doing a review on that and kind of a collaboration video talking about how they work, how much I like them. They're kind of niche with the fact that they are folding and stowable so that you can actually have some additional room. We're going to test them fully though. Like I said, hopefully, I've been going to the gym now for about an extra 8 weeks after taking a month off from being sick, and we'll see if the old arms can pull me up on them and see how much weight. I'm over half their rating. I'm not going to give you the full numbers because a lady never tells that, or you should never ask a lady that. But if it can hold me while trying to pull up or hanging from it, it should be able to hold your needs just fine. Onto the Cutech. Now, I have shot my intro video for it, but some of the cool features right off the bat I want to talk about that I've noticed with this planer versus other planers. Now, mind you, Cutech is a manufacturer's brand. They make a bunch of different planers for other companies, and they have incorporated a lot of the features from those and additional ones for theirs into it. One of the big things they talk about is kind of I don't want to say snipe resistant, but a more snipe resistant, because nothing ever really fully gets rid of snipe. you can, but I think it's a lie. But not for them. I'm talking about like snipe in general. You just reduce it to the littlest amount. Their in-feed and out-feed tables feel very beefy. One of the nice things I like that I added on here is this retention on them. So they kind of have a spring in there to retain it up in the up position when stowed away. My other one doesn't have that. It's just kind of friction held in place, but it tends to want to, you know, if I move it around too hard, it will kind of like knock out a little bit. But with this guy here, it really does a good job of holding it up and overcoming that resistance going down, kind of like a folding knife. They do feel really nice. I think the fact that they're not powder coated, they are like a stainless steel top here. You could paste wax this up really nice and it would be able to slide well very easily on it. They just feel a lot beefier than some of the other ones I've checked out. Another feature they have on here, and I'm not going to adjust it, is a 2-speed function. So basically you're going to get either 26 or 16 board feet per minute, and you're probably thinking, well, what does that matter? Well, I did the research on it beforehand, so I can help fill you in. There's 2 reasons why that helps out. Most planers that you see that are benchtop in this style are going to be single speed unless you purposely buy the 2-speed. The 2-speed assists for 2 different reasons. One, if you are working with softer woods that are sometimes prone to tear out, you can run it at a lower setting to reduce that tear out. When you're working with harder woods or you are initially doing your thickness planing and just removing the material kind of fast, even in maybe lower passes, you can set it at the higher board feet rating of 26 board feet to get it through. But then on your final pass, we're talking that 1 or 2 last passes to get it prepped for sanding or as close to finished sanding as possible, you kick this gear down to 16 board feet a minute, and it's just getting to hit the same area more and smooth it out because it's going slower. And a lot of people will say that when you do that with these, you get kind of a result of like if you sanded it with like 180 grit sandpaper, especially with the spiral head planer that they add, or head that they add into this. And so we're going to put that to the test. My old planer is just a single speed. It's a 26 board feet a minute. It's worked great. It gives me about a 120 finish when I do a nice little finishing pass. Maybe an 80 on some of the softer woods. But we're going to actually, hopefully in the next day or 2, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to be shooting some of that, and I'll kind of be able to fill you in maybe tomorrow night or Saturday night how well it does. We're going to be throwing a couple different woods through it. We're going to be doing some softwood with some center heart redwood. We're going to be doing some hardwoods, 2 different ones. One's going to be the Canary wood, which I will look up its rating on the, not Jenga, but Jenka, I think it's Jenka scale, for the ratings of hardness, and also maple, just because that's a softer hardwood that is commonly found and people use a lot of, and we want to see how well that turns out. One of the other things that I have noticed on here that I am definitely becoming to prefer is the fact that right here, and I'll try to see if I can get into a better view, there's a little dial here. Now, what you'll find on these benchtop planers, a lot of times there'll be a lever that you're going to move back and forth to adjust like your thickness stop, right? So let's say you have a 1/2 inch piece of wood, you need to mill it down to 3/8. I don't even know if 3/8 is an option. I should have probably spoke before I did. Nope, it's 1/2 and 1/4. Let's say you have 5/8 and you need to get it down to a 1/2. You would slide that bar back and forth until you get it to the 1/2 setting, and then as you lower it, it'll bottom out on it and it's done. The one thing I found with those bar ones is that there's a little extra deflection in there because it's literally a bar that locks and flops over on the little like notched staircase. And I feel like sometimes that bar can get extra compressed and allow for that deflection for it to go slightly deeper than a cut than you may want, or planing that you would like. This guy right here is actually on the inside literally a wheel that on the other side has a metal block in it that actually stops it completely. And so as you rotate the wheel to your setting, it's there. The other cool thing is, especially when you're really quickly changing different types of wood, is that with the bar, you know, you got to raise it up a little bit to move it to the next one, and you're still going to have to do that with this one. But let's say you raise it up to 1 inch, and you're going from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. Once you have it raised up there, instead of trying to finagle with it, maybe there's a piece of wood chip or it's not greased right or something stuck in there with that bar and trying to slide it around, this guy just wheels around really easy, and I really do like that feature for it. The handles on here are really nice. They're very similar to the Wen ones. The difference is the Wen ones are actually a little bit more outboard. They actually stick out about 1 inch. So you actually have a little bit thinner clearance on this guy here versus the Wen, because these guys are inside and attached to the top. And there was one other thing I was going to say on it, and I can't remember. But yeah, that's kind of the cool features with this guy so far that I'm really enjoying. They still have your in-feed, out-feed table stops, so that way you can set it up properly so it's slightly raised on the ends. When you're doing these tables, they'll always talk about having everything kind of planed in the same plane. The problem when you do that is that when you run the board through with the board wanting to lift up and go down, that's where you'll get the snipe on the ends. That's why a lot of guys will tell you, you need, if you're going to cut like a, we'll say you need 16 inches plane to a certain size, they'll tell you to do like 20 inches or even like in some cases 24 inches. So that way as it goes in and that piece of wood dives down and gets compressed where it's going to get a little bit of deeper cut, you can cut those ends off so you have a good usable 16 inches that are planed correctly without having that compressed area for that snipe. What you can do to help eliminate that is make sure you place upward pressure on the board when you're infeeding it, and then as it comes through on the outside, you put upward pressure again. So instead of doing that all the way through, what you can do on these wings, because they have adjusters here, is just make sure they're set slightly up higher. And the one thing I do like about the Cutech instructions, they do talk about that optimal setting and how off from the flat part of the table it needs to be. They actually have a range there of like 0.05 or 0.1 to 0.3 millimeters. So you can actually measure that out and get it really finely tuned and accurate. And I just like the fact that they have that thrown in there. They also have a lot of QR codes on in their book and also on their website. You can click onto it and just see all the different ways you can do different things with it, whether it's setting alignment for this guy, for the head in case it gets maybe off of being true and square, the table infeeds and outfeeds, regular maintenance on it, what grease goes where, what parts need to be lubricated. Just a really good thing, and I really like it. Both companies I have talked to multiple times now, I had great customer support with for their product that I have with the planer and some of their other items that I have. Cutech, though, just kind of next level up. Since they are the manufacturer's brand, they work with, directly with them. They're amazing. They're out of San Diego. I have talked to a couple different people through email, but over the phone, Betty is their front office gal. If you guys are looking for a Cutech tool, call their number. If you have any questions, talk to Betty. She is going to point you in the right direction. If you're ordering a tool from them, make sure to drop my name. But she will help you figure out what tool you're looking for, what's going to work best. Also, she's going to try to get you whatever discounts apply at the time. I didn't even realize it when I purchased my Cutech joiner from Amazon. They actually gave a military discount. I ended up getting extra like 10% off when Amazon wasn't even offering that. So would be awesome. We've heard about that, Dan. Tools are just tools, right? You'll get used to them. Isn't your fly rod technically a tool for fishing? I'll throw that out there for you. We're gonna play a little. I don't know. I'm lost for words tonight. It has been a long week with the kiddos, and luckily we don't have T-ball this week because we're actually able to take a break and rest, relax, and recover. I did grab my drink. I need a drink of water. But that is kind of what's going on in the shop. I do have one more thing to show you guys. It's something I've been working on for the neighbor that purchased this for a memorial. So let me get right back. That is right. Anything can be a hammer if you're determined enough. I've used rocks. I've used drills. I haven't used saws. I might have used the back end of a power saw. Yeah, anything can be used as a hammer, including your fist. It's just depending on what you're hitting. I'll be right back. So for my latest project I've been working on, it is custom bookmarks. My neighbors, unfortunately, my neighbor's father, come on, light, turn on. My neighbor's father-in-law, or not father-in-law, father actually passed away. There we go. Let's just get a little light that way. Passed away a few months ago. What did you hit to ruin a cast iron pan? I thought those things stop bullets. At least in PUBG they do. So we ended up talking. They wanted to do a memorial project for their family reunion. We talked about it. They are a religious family, and a lot of them have Bibles, so they wanted to get some bookmarks for it. These are the bookmarks that I got. This is the backside where the suede is. They're leather. At least everything is said they're natural leather, but they could have been lying to me. She wanted to incorporate his initials, the Greek word for word or God, word of God, we'll call it, and also his last heartbeat, because she was there when he passed, and the nurse was very compassionate during the whole thing and actually printed out the heart monitor, the last like 30 seconds of it. 10 steak and round rock, yeah, it works. I've done that one. I've also used a big tree log stump green one, so that way I could just whack it a bunch of times to get it in. And you know, lots of things in life, if you just hit it harder, it'll go in, or spit on it, it'll go in. But here it is right here. This is the finished product. It's going to be reversed for you guys. Since they are a more religious family, and here I'm going to religion after saying that joke, but, you know, we're that show, because it's Only Grains Late Night Edition, where things get naughty after dark. We incorporated it to make it look like a cross. I took the last heartbeat, put it on the horizontal for the cross, the initials RSN on the top, logos and Greek lettering below it. I know I've done a successful job when someone has tears of sadness, joy, a little bit of everything, relief. So I have 80 of these to do. I've done about 14. They take about 3 seconds to do on the machine. Love the F2. It's amazing for little projects like this. It just flies through them. I'll go one more for you. For you guys on maybe the West Coast, it might have been on the East Coast and Central if you're there. Back in the day, we're talking like 96 to 98, maybe even 2000. If you had cable TV, if you remember the 68 or 68, 69, 68, 69 trick, there used to be a show called Out Late with Ricky D. And I'll just leave it at that. If you know, you know. Anyways, that is how they turned out. I really think how they turned out well. I'm honestly thinking about putting this on the little Etsy shop I have. I don't have anything on there to sell currently, just because I've been so busy. But what I'm thinking of doing is actually custom bookmarks. One just for custom bookmarks, whatever you want put on it, memorial bookmarks, and then religious ones. I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer that religious. I don't go to church or anything like that. But I know there's plenty of people out there, and I would be more than happy to help fulfill their needs for it. But I think they really turned out really well on it. In fact, this black one is I was kind of worried about it first, because that's what it looks like versus this guy, right? You can kind of see this at all angles. This guy, though, is kind of cool. I think this is kind of going to be the more masculine one. It's kind of subdued. The leather's shiny, and when you catch it in the right light, the engraving is the dull part, and it really kind of gives you that subdued kind of look. I think it's really cool looking. But that's what we're working on here on the laser engraver. Let me go ahead and show you guys this. This is actually a test piece that I have for testing different engravings on boxes and heights and whatnot. But this is kind of the style of urns that I do when it comes to the box shape without the bottom and the top. I do a inset top that sticks out about a ½ inch with a decorative chamfer on the bottom. It's screwed in, same kind of design. But you know, this was kind of testing how the laser engraver would do on deep engraves, logo. And then this was the original one for the bank. I might actually try to sand all this down and repurpose it into an actual other project. I just haven't had the chance to do that yet. But it's pretty cool. We got a lot of different projects going on. I do still have a bunch of maple that I need to re-mill down to the correct board thicknesses. I am going to make a thicknessing jig, I think, for it, or I should say a remilling jig. You can go online and find some. They're pretty expensive, though. They're like 80 bucks for basically something that rides in your miter track and holds a log straight. I think I can make something like that. If I do, I'll go ahead and put that on the channel and so that you guys can do that too. A lot of times places sell remilling jigs to make rounds. So like the log sits in like a V with these little teeth in it to lock it in place. So you can kind of cut log after log after log, or round after round after round, to make like your cookies for like coasters or ornaments. But when you're doing a log lengthwise for the bandsaw, the problem that you get with the round is it wants to do this. And when you do that, you get boards that come out like this, because it's just twisting and turning all the way through the cut. So I did find one company that does make a remilling kind of tool for your bandsaw. It basically is kind of like a long piece with an end that kind of, we'll call it, collapses in to hold your log off the table a little bit, or at least in one spot so it doesn't rock. And that way you can get your initial first cut on it that's nice, flat, and smooth, so then you can rotate it onto that and make the rest of your cuts. I think it was like $98 on Amazon, $96, something like that. If you're in a pinch and you just need it, great option. However, there wasn't many other options out there, and I think we can come up with a design to use this guy right here that came with the bandsaw, and basically make a device or something that kind of pins into the wood. And what I'm thinking of is maybe even a piece of wood that goes up on the front part here and gets a couple screws set in on the log. So you have two screws, so now you have a pivot point, or you remove the pivot point, it's locked in one spot, and then you can through, you get that one side off, take your drill out, you get your two screws out or backed off of it, and away you're running on that one side. I think that's going to be the way to go for it. The only thing I'm concerned about because of this and the way it's set up is that the bandsaw miter slots are a certain distance away from the blade. So if you're working with a smaller piece of wood, you're going to need to be able to adjust that from side to side. That could be easily done with a couple little relief cuts, or I should say dados in it, so that thing can slide in with some locking nuts. Coming up with some different ideas. If you've got an idea in the idea out there, maybe throw it in the comments if you want to work around it. But the idea is that you're going to hold that log so that it's not going to be able to roll on you. Preferably also not bend from side to side. A side support could be good too, making like an L bracket for it. And I've seen people do that with 2x4s. An easy way of doing it is just take a 2x4, whack it off, put two screws through it, put it against your fence, run it through. But the problem is when you're working with a piece of wood that's bigger than your opening. And we will leave you with one last kind of tips for you guys, or education for it. When you're looking and shopping for bandsaws, you're going to hear 10-inch, 12-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch. And I swear size isn't all of it, because how you use it's the most important part. But that inch number actually does not refer to the height of the blade, the opening. It refers to the throat. And the throat is the distance from the blade to the piece of metal here. So this is a 14-inch bandsaw, says it right here. And basically there are 14 inches from the interior part of the blade to this piece of metal, if I was to remove this fence, to be able to fit through there. Pretty wide area. However, I only have, on a 14-inch, actually not me, this one's actually got a little bit higher. Exactly, and that's the best part about woodworking. We talk about wood. We talk about shafts. Screws, nuts, bolts. We got it all. It's a great comedy show if you really want to take it that way. The The height here is actually 12 inches, and that's because it's the XH. It's the extreme height. Basically what that means is there's a riser block that you can get for a lot of bandsaws that inserts into here and lifts your blade higher, or I should say your top wheel higher. And that allows you to actually get taller pieces of wood through. Now, the XH is already got that installed, or I should say it's already got a different one put in. This would be kind of our riser. Well, this is actually a solid piece. Our riser block is this arm, or a riser is this arm here. The block would go in between this point here. There's actually some bolts holding this on together. So you would actually put that in and raise it up. Then you would end up buying a bigger bandsaw blade. Currently, I have a 105-inch blade on this, with it being a 12-inch resaw capacity. I don't know if you could go higher on this. It'd be kind of cool to call Grizzly up and find out if you can go higher. If you can, I could probably make it get up to maybe 16 inches, 18 inches, which would be amazing when you're doing milling of wood, because those big logs that I have, I could actually get through if I could lift it up and do it. I'd probably need to make some type of support structure around it to have a bigger table. But that is my last little import of knowledge to you guys, is that when you read about a bandsaw and it says 14-inch, that is not from here to the highest point you can cut. That is from the blade to the widest point you can cut on the inside of the cut. Typically, what I have found out is if you take the throat distance and have it, that is the max height you're going to be able to cut through the blade. There are some differences there. Hold on. Oh, nope, it's just me on the Ring camera. There are some differences there depending on the manufacturer, make, and model. So I had a 12-inch Craftsman. It had about 7¼ inches of resaw capacity to the height. Now, that partly could have been because it was an older machine. There were some little adjustments made on it, let's just call it. You know, someone got a little creative with the Dremel tool and zzz it out. Might have also been me a little bit down the road. So I got 7¼ inches out of it. Typically, it's around 6. A 14-inch, you're looking between like 7 and 8. If you're lucky, maybe 10. But typically, the halving rule is kind of the best way to figure out your without looking in the manual or specifications, your resaw height capacity. They make lots of different bandsaws out there with different resaw heights. This is one I'm really lucky to have stumbled upon because it is the one that's got the higher riser in it to get the 12 inches. And typically I don't work with boards wider than 12 inches. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't. I have worked on one table for my mom where I used a 24-inch board and an 8-inch board that I cut down to 4 inches, and then I cut all the edges off to make it all look and match and come together to make a 22-inch wide table, depth of table, and that got creative. I actually have a flattening jig for a router. I need to make an actual, I forget, torsion box. See, look, there's another one for you, Dan. Torsion. That's not the good kind either. The torsion box basically is a flattening box, right? It's a perfectly dead flat. It's not going to twist or move on you. And you put your piece of wood on it. You have your planer jig, or I should say your flattening table, like rails set up on it so that they're level, they're in parallel with each other, everything's set up, and then you have a flattening bit, or what they'll call sometimes a spoil bit, which is just a big 3-inch flat bit that's on your router, and you basically just zip, zip, move it over, zip, zip, move it over, zip, zip, move it over, and you just keep doing that all the way down. The next thing you know, you got a flat board, and then if you flip it over, since it's truly flat on the tabletop, then you just do the other side, and now you have a proper thickness, flattened, jointed on the front and the both faces sides, and if you've already edge jointed it, you're good to go. There are some other tricks you can do with a joiner by taking off the guard and basically run it through until you get a truly flattened side, and then essentially come back with a router and do it, or if you had a wide enough planer, then you could plane it down with a little jig set up in it. But when you're getting into those widths of like 20, 24, 26 inches, you're looking at industrial machines and 220 volt. You're looking at lots of power, big expensive equipment, not going to be the best for your home shop unless you got a big outdoor garage or like, you know, shed that's set up with all that. And honestly, like you can get pretty good with this, or if you're really good with a hand plane, that is something that I haven't actually done much with. I have a couple, I need to sharpen them. But if you got winding sticks, basically the little sticks that tell you, you know, you're looking at your board down it like this, and if one's off or tilted or twisted, you can kind of read off of it, and you can take your hand plane and that area until it's nice and smooth. Takes a little extra work, a little bit of elbow grease, but it has a very good satisfaction, especially when you get that blade sharp enough that you make those little nice paper thin shavings. That is something I would love to do down the road. I have some chisels that I'm working on for that too. But yeah, that is kind of the show for tonight. Thank you all for joining. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to be having a bunch of videos come out over the next couple months. Please bear with me. We are very busy with the girls plus just life in general, and I am kind of the jack of all trades, wear all the hats. I am not only the owner and founder, but I am also the guy that does all the construction work, all the social media, all the promoting, and also finances, and everything else that goes with owning a small business is run by moi, yours truly. So trying to juggle that plus house, 3 dogs, 12 chickens, 4 ducks, no other living creatures currently in the house. Who never knows, that might change. But all that plus all the housework, it is hard to kind of manage getting those videos out to you guys on time. I am working on some steps to try to maybe get some video editing done through another company or person. That way I can just offload those videos to them and hopefully get you guys actually better edited and clearer content. But the one thing I can do with you guys, which I do appreciate you popping on at the night, especially 11 o'clock at night West Coast, is these lives, because the only time I usually typically get freedom at is after 9 o'clock, maybe 10 some nights, and I can come out here and shoot a live video with you guys and go over what it is. So in the near future, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. The most important for me right now is that subscribe if you can. If you like following along, seeing the different things we're going to be doing, we're going to be going over lasers, tools, DIY projects, house fixes. I might even do one with electronics, because I accidentally tried to hook up, well, no, I didn't accidentally. I decided to rewire Kit's little power wheels. That's even better. I love that, getting 2 things done at once. Kit has a power wheel, 12-volt system. I hate those batteries. The lead acid batteries take too long to charge. They die too quick. All those things that suck about them. I decided to buy a conversion kit. Now it's a 24-volt system. I either had to go to a 24-volt lithium batteries. I don't have that platform. I have an 18-volt system with Ryobi and a 40-volt system. I went the 40-volt setup. Got all the stuff in it that I thought I needed to. She was begging me to get it set up and running today. I got it set up and running, got everything dialed in. Unfortunately, with my volt adjuster, there are 2 settings, because it is designed to be able to be your forward and reverse switch, which if you know electric motors, to get the motor spin in reverse, you just switch the polarity and the positive, and that's what it automatically does. And I accidentally hit the switch and switched it in the reverse when it was actually sending all the power to all the electronics on the inside, including the little motherboard that controls the Bluetooth, the lights, the this, the that. Even though it has a step down on it to 12 volts, it, let's just say, reverse the polarity on that. And the next thing we know, I hear about, after 3 seconds, pop, smoke, and yeah, it won't turn on. So I have bought a new board. I have bought another step down for it to make sure it does not get overvolted. Additionally, yeah, big oops there. However, what I am going to be doing is switching that out for another box that I have for the volt adjuster, for the meter, and it's just an on-off versus the reverse, so that way we just don't accidentally flip polarity on it. But what we're going to do is maybe do a video on how to upgrade your kid's power wheel to not only yeah, luckily Chinese parts knockoff, only $20. Could have been a lot worse. But I have done that on other things before and spent a lot of money on fixing them. But what I'd like to do is maybe do a little video on how to upgrade your kid's power wheel for 2 reasons. 1, more power means more fun. Twin the Toolham and Taylor will agree with that. Additionally, ease of change for battery usage and longer battery life when your kids are using them. Those 12-volt batteries, you charge them for 12 hours, you get maybe 30 to 45 minutes, an hour if you're lucky, if your kid's driving around before it dies. And we all know when that's going to happen. When you're at the park, and now you got to drag that whole thing home with the kid in it. If we switch it over to an 18-volt, 24-volt, 36-volt, 40-volt system, whatever you're on, from a DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita, Ryobi, you name it, figure it out. What you're going to be able to do is actually have a bigger amp hour battery. You can run them in parallel if you'd like, so that way you actually have a, you know, considering what I was thinking of doing was actually going with ooh, that would be cool. E-motorcycles. We actually have a lot of those around here in the neighborhood. A couple of the parents drive their kids to school on them now, especially with gas prices. A lot of people like doing that. Run them in parallel. 4.5 amp hour battery, 2 18 volts in there. Now you got 9 amp hours of power and quick recharge, ability to carry them around easier. The lithium batteries. Of course, I'm more of a more power kind of guy, so I actually have purposely purchased this Buck system. Basically, it is a step down from 40 volts to 12 volts. So I have got to find the right wiring for the head unit, we'll call it, that controls everything. Cut that wire, splice it in, so that way it's only getting 12 volts and doesn't burn out that system. But then I can hook up the rest to the 40 volt to the motors. Now, technically, this is a 24 volt system. If you go from a 12 volt to an 18 volt, you're not worrying about burning out the motors. But if you are doubling it to like a 24 volt system, you could burn out the motors pretty quickly. I have read a lot of reviews on these 24 volt ones. We'll just play it like that. Potential for burning them out, potentially not. But there are companies that make aftermarket motors for them that you can pop in there that you can run a 40 volt system or even up to 60 or 80 volts. So, apparently, if I crank it to max, we will be able to get her little car that only does 6 miles an hour to do 14 miles an hour. So helmets will be required. But I think that's a pretty cool thing to do. Also, it's just going to save us a lot more time. The batteries I have are anywhere from, I think, a 2.5 amp hour battery to an 8 amp hour battery. So plenty of time to have fun out in the street. Anyways, with that, you all have a great night. I'm going to get inside, try to get a little bit of a break. I will hopefully I'll see you on either tomorrow night or Friday night, and then on Sunday. Saturday we'll play a hit or miss, but I'm going to try to get this as much as I can at night. You all stay safe. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week going into Thursday and Friday. Dan, awesome job also. I can't wait to see your interview. I will be definitely following along for that on the news with the AI. I think that's just amazing. So anyways, y'all stay safe. Have a great day.